Добрый день, дорогие друзья.
Good day, dear friends. Today is Sunday. We're at our Sunday webinar. In the studio, we have Dr. Michael Laitman.
Yes, hello everyone.
Alexander Kozlov, Boris Tsukovsky, and today's topic is the spiritual role of a woman.
We want to congratulate all of our women, everyone across the globe. We're very happy to dedicate today's show to you, and we wish you all the love and happiness. And let's move on.
We've prepared excerpts from our original sources. Rabash, for instance, writes about the wife. He writes, "Who is a wife, a favorable wife?" It is known that a person is called a wife when he receives from the host. The Creator gives light to His creatures, and when is a person called a favored wife? When he fulfills his desires, meaning when in response to all of the pleasures given, he responds with an intention to bestow to the host without anything for himself.
Well, if people are listening to this excerpt unprepared, then they probably think of us as some sort of medieval, I don't know, slave owners of sorts. How else can you understand this excerpt? You see, when we study Kabbalah, we begin to understand that everything is talked about in a different way. Everything has a different meaning. And it talks about our desire as if it's a woman's desire, because it's a desire to receive, which is called a feminine desire, and desire to bestow is called a masculine desire. It has no relation to a gender or any kind of gender identity in our world, which is why we, in any way, don't mean in particular men or women. All we want to say is how much the feminine roots are different than male roots. Everything that's done in the world for the sake of correction is done for the sake of the feminine inclination.
Here's another excerpt from Rabash. It's from man and woman a fruit is born, but the fruit cannot be born either from a man or from a woman. The male inclination is the force of bestowal, the female inclination is the force of reception, and together they create this fruit that can live in both.
Meaning the feminine inclination and masculine inclination, when they connect and there's a correct joining between them, the masculine inclination meaning an intention for bestowal, and the feminine inclination means a desire to receive, and it turns out that there's a desire to receive, and above it there's an intention to bestow, and when they interact between one another, they can reveal between them the Creator. They perform the highest, the loftiest act in creation, which is why it's not possible for this to be done by an individual man or an individual woman. There needs to be a joining between masculine and feminine qualities, and then they can perform a reception for the sake of bestowal, meaning become similar to the Creator. Otherwise, none of them on their own are perfect.
On that topic, we have a question from Yekaterinburg. What is the principle upon which my female inclination and the male inclination of a man can join together? How do they join together from a spiritual standpoint?
If we're talking about Kabbalist, then the masculine and the feminine inclination exists within each one of us, and a person needs to work in such a way that his entire desire to receive would be under the intention to bestow. Then we will have a correct interaction. That is why we must understand that what is meant here is not the man and a woman as we understand it, but a correct interaction between men and women. That's on one hand. On the other hand, if we're already speaking about the correct interaction between a man and a woman in a family, then we're also talking about their correct understanding of their qualities. When the quality of a man and the quality of a woman come together in such a way, when they give birth, when they correctly interact with one another, that is called the birth of a child.
It continues here. And if a person has only the force of reception but not the spark of bestowal, then he cannot make a decision to reject evil and select good, because otherwise he cannot have the force necessary to bring it to the scale of merit.
Yes, the most important thing is quality of bestowal, and this quality of bestowal is something we need to develop, and at the same time use this feminine quality of reception so that the quality of bestowal can always be raised above the quality of reception, so that there would be reception for the sake of bestowal.
And precisely then, when both these forces are equal, the force of reception and bestowal, then the person has the room to exert.
Yeah, that's the most optimal, so that these qualities would be equal.
And by using exertion, he can push the scale to the scale of merit, and then when that is done, it's called a born fruit. The Creator gives a spirit of life to this action, spiritual action.
Yeah, if there's a correct interaction between the feminine and the masculine qualities exist in either a man or a woman, not meaning individual bodies, but within each one of us there's a feminine and masculine part. If they are in correct interrelationship with one another, then when they work in themselves, he evokes upon himself such influence of the upper light that all of his desires to receive are under the intention to bestow. And in that case, he already acts in the correct way, in the corrected way. Do you have any examples or expressions about this? We have questions. Okay. Yoshkarola, by the way, they sent me such a wonderful letter. They're women. There are more of them now, I see. Thank you so much. I have passed this letter to Simeon Vinokur. He's not here today. Hopefully next time he'll be here and he'll pass his gratitude to you. He was so happy to hear from you. So thank you for this letter, for a very heartfelt letter. I'm listening to you, girls, ladies.
Hello, everyone. Our question is as follows. If a woman is developing, and so she's the quality of reception, but she is unable to learn to receive for the sake of bestowal, right? It's a harmonious development. Now, can a woman then pray for her husband, her son, her children? What is the right way to do this?
First of all, let's separate meat from the flies that eat the meat. So men and women are separated, are divided by their physical characteristics, but in the spiritual world, these qualities don't matter at all. In the spiritual world, a soul is formed. It is formed out of a desire to receive and out of an intention to bestow within each one of us, regardless of whether you're a man or a woman in this world. So you can be spiritually a masculine part, meaning bestowal, and your husband, your partner in life, could be a feminine part. And then you could switch around depending on your efforts and your states. It has no relationship to your physical gender. When you work together with your husband, if you desire to work with him together spiritually, then you become a group. Within a group, there can be a minimum of 2 people or 10 people, but not more than 10. It turns out that there everyone receives and everyone bestows. And each person plays a role of a receiver as a woman, that's called the feminine part, and also a bestower, which is called the masculine part, and that also has no relation to their gender. So this is all very conditional. In our world, of course, this is very well defined, this perception, who from us is a man and who from us is a woman, based on our physical characteristics. Here it doesn't change that much. But in the spiritual world, 1 minute I can turn from a man into a woman, and another minute I can turn from a woman into a man. Everything depends on how much within me this egoism is revealed and how much I can raise above it. That's what I can say. I want to wish for all of you to be spiritual men. And in the spiritual world to remain, in this world, remain perfect, beautiful women. St. Petersburg. You always see your women's groups.
Hello, dear Rob and the World Play. The question is, kids ask their parents a question, especially to their mom. Why did you give birth to me? I didn't ask you to. Most often the woman answers, I wanted to, and it's nature. What should be the right intention for a woman who studies Kabbalah when she is giving birth to a child, so that it would not be a corporeal desire but a spiritual one?
These are very serious questions, I would say. If a child would ask me, why did you give birth to me? I would tell them, then this is the law of nature. I need to give birth as I was born, so that we consequentially, throughout generations, would correct our common ego that exists within each one of us in a small proportion. Each one of us has a small little bitty part of the egoism, so I correct it a little bit and you correct it a little bit. And each one of us in this way, and that's how humanity moves towards general correction. So we must give birth to children. That's first of all. Second, it is said that a person needs to give birth at least to two children, a boy and a girl. Other families perhaps don't have boys or girls, but then what was the second part of the question? Okay, the intention. So the intentions need to be for bestowal. During conception of children, it's preferable to be in this intention to bestow, and while raising them to be in this intention to bestow, and over time they will get used to these words and they will become interested in the internal meaning of these words. Next.
Yeah, we have a lot of questions from the internet.
Wait, we have a group of Almata. Almata?
Good evening, Rav, the World Play. I have a short question. Who is the Kabbalist Tanai? Thank you.
Tanai? Okay, well, we won't be able to meet them these days. These are Kabbalists that used to live in the past. These are Kabbalists that lived thousands of years ago. These were great, great people. Each one was very similar to the Creator. For example, Rabbi Shimon, he was called Tana. In other words, he related to a group of Kabbalists called Tanaim. Then there is a group called Amoraim. These are periods in attainment of the Creator. These were huge Kabbalists. And then there was a so-called dissension of generations, gradually until our time, and we are very insignificant compared to them. However, we can connect it to them through the methods that they laid forth for us, through their recommendations. We can adhere to the general correction. So Atana is a great Kabbalist, but today you will not meet one like that. If you would have lived 2,000 years ago, then yes, that would have been possible. We have no one else. Okay, let's go to the questions from the internet.
Tatiana from Kemerova, what are the specifics of acquiring the quality of bestowal when you were born a woman?
I don't understand. What is it? How do you acquire the quality of bestowal for someone who was born a woman? Okay, yes, there is a certain thing about that for men and women. I think you can't really say what's better or worse, to be a man or to be a woman in Kabbalah, because in relation to the quality of your soul, a person is given all other conditions: the family, a man, a husband, or it's a wife, and work, and everything else that happens to this person in life. How should I say this? I don't think that we really need to delve into this at all. If I were a woman, of course I would have different functions in life, a different fate. But I don't think that you need to worry about this or be concerned, because fate, or this final stop, the attainment of your soul or of your root, is the same for everyone, regardless of whether I was born a man or a woman. Each one of us has their root of their soul. Each one of us needs to attain that root, and they will attain it, regardless of who they are at this very moment. So all kinds of competition or clarification, scrutinies here, who is more lucky or who is less lucky here, this is absolutely incorrect, because the Creator is just, is merciful, and He's the upper, and there are no preferences here for one or another. This can be someone, a slave worker somewhere in Africa, let's say, or it doesn't matter where, yet still the final destination of his soul is on the same degree as all the greatest Kabbalists and other big souls. There is no preference of one to another. The difference is in the fulfillment of one's function in this world towards correction. Here, it works in a different way. The worse I am, the more I am in worse states, the greater opportunity I have to attain this ascension to correct myself. So it turns out that as a result, all of us become equal, and none of us can have any complaints to the Creator why He made me this way and not in another way. Maybe this takes away a certain taste of competition, but you'll forget about this and you'll still look at the world through your qualities, humane qualities. But when you will enter the spiritual world, then it will appear to you, you'll ask this question, why am I not worse than I am now? Because if you were to be worse, then you would be able to attain more and give greater pleasure to the Creator.
Zina from Odessa asks, how can you have the same fate? You said that everyone has more or less the same fate that's going to work out. If everyone has their own root of the soul and their own path is very individual, although we all need to move towards it together, how can then we can have the same fate? What's the same about it?
What's the same? A conditional effort of every person in relation to his soul, to the qualities that occur around his soul, so that he would realize this potential, his final state of the soul, of his soul, in this system of Adam. All these things are so interconnected that not a single person is preferred over another. It's not like we see in our world. We eventually attain complete correction within this common soul, which is why whoever has greater egoism, it's more difficult for him, and whoever has a thinner or lighter egoism, it's easier for them. But in reality, it's not so. Everything depends on the help that he receives. As a result, it appears that everyone is absolutely equal, as in a completely perfect mechanism. Let's say our body. If our body would be completely perfect in an ideal scenario, then not a single cell would be preferred over another cell, because if you were to take out one cell, then you would ruin the balance of this entire organism. So let's just calm down and not touch upon this topic at all. Everyone is equal, everyone is the same, everyone is completely perfect in their final state, and to aspire towards this final state, each one of us also has the same condition. The greater the egoism, the greater the conditions to attain that, and the lesser the egoism, the lesser the conditions to get there. But as a result, everyone comes to complete perfection.
A reaction to what was just heard, I imagine, from Omsk. In the spiritual, there's the law, there's the states that the worse it gets, the better it is. So the worse your starting conditions, the better your spiritual development.
I wouldn't say so. It seems like this for women. The worse I am or the better I am. And envy always tells one that the lawn is always greener in my neighbor's yard. I don't think you need to pay attention to this. It's not so. Once again, when you will correct yourself and will look at everything through your corrected eyes, you'll have no chance to complain to the Creator why this person has it this way, this person has it that way, why wasn't I born 2,000 years ago, why was I born in this generation. You'll see that everything is placed in a completely justified way, and there's nothing you can say about it.
Another question from Tomsk. Olyana asks, if I am like a mother, always listening to your Kabbalistic lessons, and my children are with me and listening to it with half an ear, does it give them a certain luminescence from above and a positive force of the light for their development?
Yes, I remember when I used to arrive at Rabash's house for a place of study. he asks me, what do you do when you are not here? I used to live fairly far, well, maybe not that far, about 25, 30 kilometers from him. So he's asked me, what do you do when you're not here? I said, I learn, I study. I have a son, and so I study with him. How old is he? He's 9. He says, why don't you bring him here? So I brought him. Next time, he spoke with him. He asked him some questions. And it was very interesting for him. I saw that he was very curious about all this. And so he told him, yes, continue. Rabbar said, in this age, and maybe even earlier, if you can study in front of your kids, then you should do so, but don't force them. It's enough for them that they hear about this, even from the corner of their ear.
Another question, interesting one from Irkutsk. How do corporeal problems that women face help influence a person's ability to get the quality of the soul? For example, managing to get married, start a family, or being able to, or have been particularly beautiful. Does it help or does it harm?
What does it mean to harm and not help? If there are conditions that you feel that prevent you from starting a family, and you feel that these conditions push you towards Kabbalah and not towards creating a family and to raise your children and to serve your family, then perhaps that's how it will happen. I think that we don't need to plan anything in this regard. We don't know the Creator's plans. We just need to move ahead as much as possible. If there's an opportunity to get married, then you should get married. If there's an opportunity to study Kabbalah, then you should study Kabbalah. If you need to get married and have a family, then dedicate yourself to your family. If there's an opportunity to also listen to the lessons, then you should listen to these lessons and continue doing so. But don't decide, okay, categorically, now I'm not getting married and I'm leaving all of that stuff and I'm studying Kabbalah and that's it. No, you shouldn't do that. We live in this world and we need to trust the Creator. Let Him decide for us how we should be.
We have Rostov and Toronto. Maybe ask them.
Yes, Rostov. Yes, I hear you.
You just said that there is a great ego, there are small egos, and with respect to this, the Creator gives different circumstances to correct it. I wanted to know, how do you find out if you have a large ego or a small ego? Are there certain characteristics or qualities?
Why? Why do you need to know this? You don't need to know this. Whatever you have is what you have. Every person has their characteristics, their qualities, and he works with them. So it doesn't matter. You shouldn't be jealous of anyone. Every person has a certain tool set of their qualities that will help them, allow them to reach the root of their soul. Toronto.
Good morning, Rav.
Morning.
Rav, my question is not really a question. It's more about if you could give us some tips how to come closer with the women in the center. What should we do to make a closer relationship? Please.
Леночка, возьми у нее микрофон и переведи.
Lena, please take the microphone and translate.
Это не вопрос, а мы просим вас дать нам Какие-то советы, как женщинам стать ближе в центре?
She's translating the question, how women should become closer to one another in the center.
That is a good question. I don't really know how to answer it. It's constant work of all the women between themselves when they create certain conditions in the group, and thus they advance, they draw closer to each other. I used to know the Toronto group very well. I was very familiar with them. There were many lovely women there who were very tight-knit, very close to one another. I know that times change, and perhaps now the time isn't as good, or whatever may be happening there, but that the same is happening in every group. There are waves of ascent and descent, but I think that you have all the conditions necessary in order to create correctly a good women's group. You have several women that have studied with me for decades. So try. Keep trying to actualize this. You are able to do it. You're capable of it. St. Petersburg.
Hello. My question is half a question, half a request. Hello, Raven. Hello, World Kli. If today in our environment a woman studies Kabbalah and she also has night shifts, but we hear from our friends that the woman shouldn't work at night, what would you suggest? If she studies Kabbalah, does she not work? Does she need to be closer to the environment? What kind of correction there is here?
I can't comment on whether or not a woman can or should work at night. Night shifts are not good for anyone, man or woman. For men, it may be more suitable, but not for women. A woman's body, her organism is different from that of a man. I wouldn't advise it. I would advise against it. There are also countries where you can't avoid having a night shift, or if you're talking about working in a hospital or any other establishment where you have to work around the clock. So there's nothing you can do about that. You have to work. There is nothing terrible about it, and it must not serve as a disturbance to achieving a Kabbalistic level. So, good luck to you, as long as you stay healthy. Kharkov.
I have a situation, a friend has a situation. She comes to Kabbalah and unmarried, and then she starts studying Kabbalah, and then she gets married, and then leaves Kabbalah. Please tell me, is this a type of correction? How should I relate to this situation?
What can you do? If the husband is against it, or she distances from Kabbalah because she gets pregnant, what can you do? This is our life. First and foremost, we need to perform the physical, corporeal conditions, requirements of living here. This is why for a man it is very important to have a family. So let's make an agreement that first and foremost we start families, and then we study Kabbalah. This is important. In Kabbalah, this requirement is very serious, especially for a woman who still nonetheless wants to have a family. She does need it. So even though if there's this condition, what do I get married or do I study Kabbalah? It's better for her to get married. If that's a condition, she has to choose either or. So if it happens, forgive her, don't begrudge her, let her have a family, get married, and have a good family. And then on top of that, let her work on everything else if she's able to. Volga.
Hello, Rob.
Stop. Turn off your radio. Now you can speak.
A friend from Orenburg asks.
No, you have an echo. Turn off your speaker.
То, значит, мы пойдем дальше.
All right, we're going to move on. Let them figure out. You need to be ready in order to ask the question correctly. When you speak, the sound gets into your speakers, and you're hearing your own voice, which gets into the mic again. That's unacceptable. What do we have there?
We have a question from Natalie from Moscow. We know that one of the reasons for divorce is the egoism of the married couple. While studying Kabbalah, this egoism grows for a man and a woman. How to avoid this growth?
How to avoid a divorce when the ego keeps growing? First of all, it depends on the kind of marriage we're talking about. If this is a marriage between people who are studying Kabbalah, they relate to Kabbalah, they have this connection, so they need to have a very strict agreement between them that no matter what problems may arise between them, they're not getting divorced. That's first. Second, either way, whatever happens, they're still going to be helping each other despite their differences, disagreements. They're going to be helping each other. They realize that whatever happens between them is the ego. The ego that's present in them both. It's difficult to work with it, and then they work together. They've lived together a long time. They know each other. They have a life, and children, maybe grandchildren. So you need to orient yourself in such a way that once you get married, that's it. That's it. There's period. There is no other alternative. That's better, because getting children and then ending the family, starting a new family, second family, third family, your children are going to be miserable. Your children will never forgive you. A child who you have left behind in order to start a new family elsewhere, that child will never forgive you. He will always feel like you have betrayed him. And this is something that you need to be prepared for, that you are staying with this child for the rest of your life. Maybe not with your wife that you perhaps you would have liked to divorce, but with the children that you have started, you brought into this world, you're with them forever. And from then on, we have Plovdiv.
Hello, Raf. We have a question from Facebook. Why, in our life, things happen over and over again?
In order so that we would gradually, bit by bit, we could correct ourselves, because you can't do it in one time, in one go. There are many reincarnations that we go through, and it's not that. It's the soul that lives through the so-called ibur, this resettlement and the partial reconnection of the souls, and this connection and then reconnection. And in this process, all the souls are given their full, complete correction. That's how it happens. You perhaps need to read what do you call it? Neshamot, the song, the reincarnations of the souls. We're talking about desires that gradually are transformed from for themselves to for the Creator. What, we're out of questions again? Or you have questions, okay?
Bill from the United States is asking, should we connect these feminine masculine part within ourselves in order to have a harmonious relationship with my partner?
Yes, that is a very good question. We need to connect within us the male and female part in a way so that the male part would give the tzimtzum masach al-chazer, the corrected state. The female part would give us the desire, the ego, above which we're able to build a correction, and together they would work harmoniously in each person.
Another question. Does there exist between a wife and a husband a certain aravut, mutual guarantee? Like you said, man and wife are a group.
That is the wedding contract. The mutual guarantee to help each other throughout their life in order to reach revelation of the Creator between them, that is the condition of the mutual guarantee that they are signing between themselves. Yes, that is very important.
Question from Voronezh, from Olga. Who is a woman for a man and also for a man for a woman in the spiritual? How do they identify one another? And who are relatives? Are there certain rules in the family life and the spiritual?
No, don't think about it that way. There's nothing like that here. Between man and woman, husband and wife, there are certain spiritual conditions, but no more than that. Don't look at anyone else. What else can we add?
Are there certain active interactions that occur here?
Yes, we don't just meet and get married accidentally, even though we may make mistakes often, but where we already conceive children, that family is not considered a family without children. When once you have children, you have a family, and then based on this, you already have you start looking at the connection between man and woman.
On the same topic, there's a question. If there are no coincidences, then how does this interaction between souls relate to marriage?
You think that it's fate that brings you, like it takes one person, picks them out of the crowd, and another person out of the crowd, and then brings them together. No, it doesn't happen like that. These are all spiritual forces that work in accordance to the original condition of the shattering of the soul, and then keeping in mind the final reconnection of all the souls. And in the meantime, all of the souls are going through the process of disconnecting, reconnecting, getting together, giving birth to children, and so on and so forth. This is how we're going to reach final correction, the general correction.
Valery is asking, can we say that initially a woman is more corrected in the spiritual sense than a man?
Partially, yes. Partially, yes. In part. On the other hand, a man is given more opportunity to correct himself than a woman is. So, you can't say that a man is given more opportunity because a woman is given more corrected ego but less opportunity, and for the man it's the opposite. But there are huge differences between men and women there's a whole palette of different egoistic qualities. So huge differences.
Rav, you just said that for women it's more preferred to get married and have a family than to study Kabbalah. For a lot of women, this is actually scary that they will get married and won't be able to study Kabbalah. Maybe you can tell us what intention we should clean our dishes and pots so that we wouldn't be afraid to get married and have children.
So make this agreement with your husband in advance that you would have time for this, and you'd have time both to scrub pans and do the housework, but then also study Kabbalah. And he's going to be helping you. It's going to be harder on the one hand, but also not necessarily. Look at what's happening here in Israel. When do our women come to lessons? Only during holidays, or maybe see them at the meal on Saturday. That's it. You don't see them any other times, because they also have their obligations, their house, family. In Israel, it's customary to have like 3, 4 children, maybe even 5, 6. So women have lots of chores and obligations, but still, we are concerned primarily with all of the women getting married, and that has always been the case. It's always is looked upon as a very good, very important thing, so that there wouldn't be a single woman that's not married. We have so many women here, and there are some who said that we don't want to. We just don't want to. You know, sometimes we pressure them a little bit softly, but we came to grips with those exceptions. There are a few exceptions like that, but otherwise, as soon as we see a single woman, we're always trying to find her a match. And we still have vacancies.
So no
questions? Or Vilnius?
Добрый день всем. Спрашиваю
Hello.
вопрос Явита из Вильнюса. Если дети приютные, это считается полноценная семья?
The children are adopted, is that considered a family, full family?
Yes, then it's considered to be a full, complete family, and it is a special family. A special family. And they're going to have a special help from above.
I also heard you say that actually more so than towards natural kids, there's a special attitude towards them.
Yeah, that's a separate kind of topic, separate conversation, but it's a very good. It's not a negative in any way. Just the opposite. It's a positive. Yes, Sasha.
Tatiana is asking a very emotional question with a lot of question marks. So we need to live in such a way so not to think about what people say. So I try not to depend on the society. I really try. I have a mother, I have an intelligent child, but I'm not happy. It's so hard to meet someone. Where do I meet this person?
It's not gonna help to take someone. To meet someone, of course, it's better to meet someone in the circles that are close to you. Otherwise, it can be just a person off the street, no matter how kind or developed they may be. So you should probably look for someone in our groups if you've been studying for a while. But nonetheless, it's possible. I think that you should turn to the groups, either here in Israel or in Russia. There are a lot of people who find their match here. And please, by all means, every year we have dozens upon dozens of weddings. And very different ones. The last one that we had, a special one, was a girl from Ukraine and a guy from Bombay, India. We attended their wedding in Bombay, India. Imagine a Ukrainian girl and an Indian man, and they got married, and now they're living here. in Israel, and they're a wonderful couple, and so forth. We have many such examples of couples. So we're in favor of people being good matches in terms of their inner soul, inner qualities of the soul. St. Petersburg.
Prof, in that case, please explain, why did the Creator give a woman this desire to change herself and to study Kabbalah, as opposed to a desire towards the family more? If that would be the case, then the woman wouldn't want to listen to the lessons and would accompany her husband. Then why did the Creator give a woman such a desire?
A woman's desire to reach the source of her soul, meaning to reach the Creator, it is by no means smaller than that of a man. It is veiled somewhat by the aspiration to have a family, to have children, these corporeal aspirations. But in reality, her desire to reach the meaning of life, the soul, a woman's desire is also very strong. She is a human being. It is a human desire to reach the purpose of the soul, to reach the source, the Creator. It is inherent only to human beings. And if this quality is awakened in a woman, then we must absolutely all find such a person, a man and a woman, to give them all the circumstances, all the conditions necessary in order for them to actualize this condition. That's how it works. Yes.
Question: how should a woman deal with the external thoughts in her head in Kabbalah? Does this help in Kabbalah?
Kabbalah talks about how all the thoughts that you consider viruses, they're all given to you from above. So you must understand them, to recognize what they are, to connect with their source, and then you will be able to assign them correctly, organize them correctly in your head, and work with them. But by no means should you reject them or toss them away, discard them, these thoughts.
Question from Svetlana. Upon which criteria do we need to choose a man that is a Kabbalist?
You should choose a husband by the following criteria. You want him to be very, very serious Kabbalist. You want him to be a good match for you in terms of certain corporeal parameters, so that you would be in agreement with him in terms of how you see your family in the future, for his environment to accept you, and for your girlfriends and your family and your loved ones would accept him, for there to be a certain agreement in your environment on both sides. And most importantly, for you to come to an agreement with him that life is built upon mutual concessions. Concessions, not on love, but on concessions. As soon as you see something in the other that you don't like, you don't particularly like, that you immediately stop seeing it, you don't want to see it. You want to see in one another only the good. If that is how you position yourselves to perceive one another, then you're going to everything is going to work out wonderfully for you. So that is what I wish for all of you. Kiev.
Hello. Please tell me, if you can, what were Adam and Eve like? What kind of a relationship did they have between them? And do relationships between men and women here need to be similar to those?
Adam and Eve are two systems of connections of egoistic desires. The receiving desires and bestowing desires. These are not human beings. They're not people. Don't think of them like that. The Bible, the Torah, that is precisely what it tells us. And we need to come to a state when these two systems they combine fully and they produce one human being. Adam is essentially, he is on his own. He's by himself. It's written in the Bible that there is one Adam, and then, as if the Creator, God created out of his rib a woman. These things need to be understood. They require great explanations. But in short, the system brings us to a point where we are, once again, we come back together into one, and we're all called Adam together. We're not talking about some biological form or a person from this world, by no means. But all of us come from primates, from apes. That's not there's no question about it. We come from apes, but this sort of apes gradually developed, and these desires grew in them. These desires pushed us to develop into humans. Apes are much better than we are. The ego is much higher, much greater in us, the uncorrected apes. We're much worse than they are. So don't worry about it too much. Worry about correcting, about correction. St. Petersburg.
A certain force in nature shows you a man that doesn't study Kabbalah, but everything he does are Kabbalistic. All the actions he does are Kabbalistic, based on what we study in Kabbalah. So this couple, they're attracted to one another. What does the Creator want to show us through this?
Don't start making these mistakes and confusing yourselves. It's all an illusion. It all seems that way to you. If he doesn't study Kabbalah formally, precisely, specifically, explicitly, don't even think of him as a potential husband. That's my advice to you. You're not going to succeed in any way. Bring him to the group first, have him start studying, give him the conditions under which he'll become a serious student, and then after he starts to study seriously, you can consider marrying him. Or if you marry him before that happens, you're going to leave Kabbalah, abandon Kabbalah. I promise this to you. Is everything clear?
Sochi?
Sochi, where are they? We have Sochi. Yes. Hello. You're celebrating the Women's Day as well?
We are replacing women here. I wanted to ask, in our group, there are a lot of great women friends who are on the path for many years, but they're not married. How should we take care of them? Maybe we can advertise this problem here?
This is not a problem. It's a privilege. You must immediately exert every possible effort in order to help them get married. I'm being serious, and you're going to get lots of great friends as a result. Start doing this seriously, and you'll do two great deeds immediately, right at once. You will help the women get married, and you will acquire new male friends in the group. Start doing this seriously. Have the whole group work on it. I'm being serious. We don't have any problems with this. We immediately start thinking of how to get them matched up, how to match up a man and how to match up a woman.
We're nearing the end. What are your wishes for the week?
Look, we even have a bouquet of flowers here, and to celebrate the International Women's Day, and we want to give it to all of our dear women, to each and every one of you, for you to have a good life, for you to feel good, for you to feel that you can rely, count on your men, and for us to truly bring you to the highest point, to the Creator. We will try. I'm telling you this on behalf of all our men. Take care. Thank you.